I'm Marcus Coward, and this is Wake Up New Bedford. And I'm here with Josiah Cordero. Josiah, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And so, for those who know you, but especially for those who don't, let's start to create a picture of who you are. And we can start with where you're from.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in New Bedford. I'm locally a local person. I've always been an entrepreneur my whole life. I went from buying and selling cars, owning 2 car dealerships, to now I'm a full-time real estate investor and a real estate agent with Remax Vantage, and that's kind of what I'm doing now, is buying and selling houses, renting them out, and doing things like that.
How old are you?
I'm 26 years old.
Well, okay, so we're the same age.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it seems like you've already lived quite a life so far. Okay, that's impressive.
Yeah, pretty stressful. That's why I'm almost going bald, you know?
Okay, but does that stress come with fun? Is the stress fun, or do you have to find fun in other ways?
I rarely take vacations just because I like what I do, you know? Like every single day feels like a vacation to me. When I'm actually on vacation, I feel uncomfortable because I'm like, I'm not doing enough. What am I doing? You know,
I feel you.
I'm on the phone left and right talking to people, trying to figure things out for when I come back from vacation. So. Okay.
So when you're young, first, what elementary school did you go to?
So I went to Ashley Sumner School in New Bedford in the North End.
Yeah.
And then from there I went to Nomandon. Then to Volk. And then from Volk I went to a 2-year community college up in Boston.
Sure.
And
what was your shop in Volk?
Electrical, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. I chose electrical first. I really liked it, and it had a lot of hype behind it.
Yeah.
It was very unique.
Definitely.
And then my second choice was actually collision. I never even explored it, but I just really liked cars and things like that.
Sure.
So I ended up just getting electrical, and that's what I went with.
And so even before you get to Volk and you decide electrical, did you have something in mind that you wanted to do, like a career when you're younger?
So I have an older brother, and a lot of things that I do, I kind of copy and paste from my brother.
Sure,
right?
I get that.
So I see what he's done and the successes he's had, and I try and imitate those things. So I know he's always wanted to be an electrical engineer. I want to be an electrical engineer. I want to be an electrical engineer. So when I was younger, I would just copy what he'd say. I'm like, I want to be an electrical engineer. I didn't even know what that meant.
I get you,
right?
yeah.
So when I went to high school, I took electrical because it was the easiest route to become an electrical engineer in the future.
Yeah.
And then that's what I ended up going to school for as well. I did the 2 years, and then I ended up realizing that, you know, maybe that's not the best route for me. And then I kind of segued into businesses and entrepreneurship and things like that.
What made you realize that? Did you enjoy the shop while you were at Volk?
Oh yeah, absolutely loved it. Volk has a great team there.
Sure.
So I liked the shop. I liked the school. It's just me as a person, as an individual. I don't think I was cut out to be running wires and things like that. You know.
Okay.
So when I went to college, same thing. I kind of, you know, my whole life I've always been in school, and I'd be like sleeping, and people would be like, my teachers would, hey, wake up. They're trying to catch me up, and they think I'm sleeping, not paying attention. They'd ask me a question, I know the answer, I'd go back to sleep, everyone's confused. Like, how does this guy know the answers if he's asleep? You know, because school was very easy for me. So without trying, I would get A's and B's. Okay. So there was some kids that were struggling, and I would just be there sleeping, and I'd still be getting A's and B's. So I didn't really like that side of things, you know, like learning, the school environment. I liked really just being hands-on, doing things, and always trading and buying and hustling, things like that. So
even when you were younger, like in elementary school, middle school, school was just always easy for you?
Always, yeah, especially math. Math was like my favorite subject. So,
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Like all my teachers, they would know me as like the kid that's always sleeping, class clown, you know, entertaining people.
Sure.
And like hustling, like basically buying and selling things, trading up and things like that. They always knew me as that one individual. I'd come in with gum, and I'd sell it, or Hershey bars or whatever, sell it for $1, trade up, do this, do that. Okay. Even back in the day, and I think it was middle school, something happened where they got rid of all like the chocolate milk and the strawberry milk. I came in with the flavors. I was selling the flavors.
With the flavors, bro.
Yeah, I was getting 50 cents, $1, whatever. You know, that was just me. I was a grinder, a hustler. So.
And so, what do you think? Like when you think back, why do you think school was so easy for you? Was there something natural, or where do you think you got that from?
I don't know, honestly. I just think my entire life I've always tried to figure out the easiest way to do things. So, for example, if there was an issue, there's always different ways to get an answer. I would try and figure out the easiest answer. That's just how my brain works. So I would always just think, okay, what's the easiest way to get this done? Boom. And then maybe other people would be complicating it, right? So it just kind of came easy to me, I guess.
Do you think that thinking came from your brother, or that was like something original for you?
I don't know. Like, I know the first time I noticed that was, when you have like those epiphany moments.
Yeah.
I noticed that in high school that we had some sort of game for after prom, and it was me versus somebody else, and they explained to us how to play the game. And while they were explaining it to us, I already knew like the cheat code, how to solve it, how to figure it out, how to get like the max, amount of points right away. And the other person did it the exact same way they explained it, right? But before that person was even done explaining the game, I had already solved, a faster method and basically broke the game. So I got the max score. That's when I really realized that. I was like, not everybody thinks the same.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
There's always people who are gonna try and figure out, how can I get this done faster? What's the most efficient way? And that's kind of something that's came to me as I guess I could say one of my gifts is how to get the ball rolling, you know? So.
And I think, I'm pretty sure I saw a post of yours recently where you were explaining that you like either weren't the smartest or the richest person, but you just like, I think it was actually, this is how you're phrasing it, that other people have advantages in life, but they're just not using them. And then you were just saying like, you have to, you just figure it out. Like you're willing to like put in the work to figure out the answers, and you would try and give other people advice, and then they just wouldn't take it. Like you're trying to teach them the tools of the trade, but they're just not, maybe they have their own way of thinking and they're not trying to adapt or actually use the advice you're giving them. But like you said, you figured it out, and now you're at a point where you're trying to help people, and now it's just a matter of them taking your advice or not.
So what they say is, the game is free, the hustle is sold separately, right? Where it's
That's good. That's good.
There's a lot of things. If you want to learn how to buy and sell and flip houses, you could look up that stuff on YouTube, but are you going to actually put in the work, right? Or for example, I remember before I even knew anybody in the space, I was messaging and commenting, and everybody on Facebook, Instagram, there was a commercial guy. He's a big person in this area. I remember I had messaged him. I called his office multiple times. So I wanted to work underneath him. Right? And he's probably in his mind, he's like, who's this high school student DMing me, messaging me? Because back then, social media wasn't that big.
He was new.
So I even would call his office, everything, just to kind of at least get in front of him. Right? Fast forward later, me and him talk on a daily basis, just because, he still actually remembers that. He had talked to me about that. It's just little by little you kind of progress and you start to meet people from different ways and kind of go from there. But like I said, all these resources are free. You can go and do whatever you want to do. You just got to put in the time. And not a lot of people are willing to put in that time.
So you said you were calling him in high school? And I'm assuming this guy has maybe something to do in real estate? Okay. But, so you're already interested in real estate in high school when you're still like in the middle of electrical?
Yes. So like I said, I had a lot of influence from my brother. My brother bought his first property at a young age, like in his 20s, and it was a multifamily. And I remember, progressing through life and what he's been doing, and I kind of see that as a road, and I copy what he's doing, right? So I remember him buying a multifamily at a young age, dealing with headache tenants and fixing it up. He ended up selling it, making a lot of money on it, right? And that's the first thing I noticed was this guy made a lot of money, and he only held that for a small amount of time. How can I copy that same method and replicate it?
How much older is he than you?
He's about 4 years older than me.
Okay.
So he probably bought his house, I don't know honestly, but maybe from between like 20 to 23 years old, roughly.
Wow.
And it was a multifamily, and then he sold it, made a little bit of money, and moved out to Florida and then bought a single family out there.
And so, how did he also move on from electrical? Like, did he have a career in electrical engineering? Like,
funny story. He went to school for engineering instead of electrical, and then that's why I did electrical instead of engineering, because it was a lot faster for me to go from electrical to electrical engineering
Yeah.
versus in school you're going for engineering, and
Yeah.
then you go to school and you become an engineer. So he ended up getting his bachelor's degree in engineering in Florida instead of in Massachusetts, because when he moved.
Yeah.
So he ended up doing it. He completed his goal, but I didn't. I'm about like 18 months away from becoming an engineer, but I don't really need it now.
And so is he still doing
Yeah,
engineering?
yeah,
out
yeah,
there?
yeah.
Okay, I got
He
you.
switched it to civil engineering, though, I believe.
Sure.
So, yeah.
But is he still pursuing real estate as well, or you kind of moved on?
Yeah, he kind of moved on. Yeah, he had his headaches, and he's just like, nah, I'm all set.
Okay,
you know?
got you.
Yeah.
But I mean, he made it work.
Yeah,
And definitely
exactly.
inspired you to do the same. Like,
Yeah.
did anyone else inspire you to do real estate, or that really just came from your brother doing it?
I would say my brother had a lot of influence on me at a young age,
Yeah.
and also, you know, basically my family growing up. I didn't come from a very wealthy family,
Yeah.
basically. So I grew up in public housing,
Sure.
and I realized I'm like, I can't even paint my own walls in my own bedroom. You know,
Yeah.
like if I wanted to paint these walls instead of them being white, I wanted to paint them red or black or whatever color I wanted to. I got to ask for permission. They say no. You know, they have a lot of different rules, and I didn't like that. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't like to be put in a box. And I realized I'm like, I'm gonna be buying a house as soon as possible, and I'm gonna be the one that's setting the terms, right? So that kind of pushed me. That put some fire on me to get going.
And you feel like you felt like that when you were younger, or as you got older?
I've always felt like that. I've always
Yeah.
felt like, you know, I don't like to be put in a box, you know, so I want to be the person who is giving the orders, not someone giving me the orders, if that makes sense.
No,
right?
for sure.
So-
Because then that makes me ask you about you being a natural hustler in terms of making money when you're young. Like that's something that some people do, but most people don't.
Yeah.
You know? So where do you feel like you got that interest in making money from when you were younger?
That's a good question. I don't know. I just think it came naturally. Like I've always been hustling and trading up. Like I said, even in elementary school, I was trading Pokemon cards for Yu-Gi-Oh cards and Bakugan and this and that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
You can ask anybody I went to middle school with, elementary school, they'll remember funny stories. Like
Yeah.
I was just always buying and trading. I had like a whole like inventory in my backpack, right? My
Really?
mom thought I was carrying books and stuff in there.
No. We're making money. What are you talking about?
So
Do you remember what you did that use that money for? Like, do you remember like your first big purchase, or were you more into saving?
I think I've always been into saving,
Yeah.
but like I said, I would always reinvest into inventory and kind of level up. So like I said, in elementary school, maybe it was Bakugans and Pokemon cards. Then middle school was like a lot of Jordans and
Okay.
Supreme clothing and things
Sure.
like that. And then I moved up from there to rims, cars, then from that into, you know, the real estate. So I've always been progressing little by little.
Okay. And so, even before you got into, so you mentioned that you owned 2 dealerships. Where does that fall in the timeline?
So that was after high school, right after college. So it was right after college, actually.
Okay.
So after college, I realized, you know, I didn't want to be doing what I was doing, and I take a lot of influence from people that are older than me. So
Sure.
I see them as mentors, basically.
Yeah.
One of my mentors was telling me, hey, I'm having a lot of success buying and selling cars. I see you're a hustler and you're kind of doing the same thing. Why don't we team up? So we tried it out at a smaller scale at first, and then we went from there. We bumped up to a bigger scale. Then we tried doing an even bigger one. Then we came back down just to the 2, just because it was a lot of work just between me and him.
Sure.
And then ultimately, I ended up selling my position to him just because I didn't want to be tied up as far as time-wise goes.
Okay.
I wanted to segue into real estate. So that's what I ended up doing.
Because you would be making more money with less time in real estate? Or?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
And I kind of already had a lot of systems in place. So when I started off the dealership, I tried reaching out to multiple people in this area
Yeah.
for help. And I realized that everybody was kind of, they've been in the game for 10 to 15 years, but they've been doing things the same way for 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
I'm a young kid, I'm doing things differently. I'm
Yeah.
using social media to my advantage. I'm using CRMs or DMS, things like that. So like,
What are these?
so like, for example, CRM is, you know, keeping track of your customers. So I can text, call, I can follow up with them accordingly.
Sure.
Nothing falls through, so I know exactly when I have to call or text somebody to kind of generate more leads.
Sure.
Or if somebody calls in, I immediately take their information, put it in the system so I can follow up with them within the next week, 3 weeks, a month.
Yeah.
Most of the time, people, it's like a dinosaur age, right? They don't even have a computer.
Yeah.
Everything's on paper.
Yeah.
So same thing with like a DMS is like dealer management system. So you're essentially keeping track of all of your inventory and how much you're into the car for, how much you're going to sell it, things like that. So I really wanted to revolutionize how I was doing things. So I would start, instead of talking to small time car dealerships, I started talking to franchise dealerships. And a friend of mine is my age. He actually owns 3 franchises now.
Wow.
He's big, yeah. And I would ask him, hey, how do you run this? How do you do that? And I kind of took influence from him and ran with it. So that's another thing I like to do with people is, say if I admire that person, I will try and copy what they're doing, replicate it, but make it my own, right?
Sure.
So then that's how I kind of have a little bit of success, is because that person in front of me already laid out the framework for me of how they're doing it. So even if I'm doing it 80% of that capacity, I'm still doing it better than most people.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and so are you actively taking notes, or do you have a journal, or all this is just in your memory?
Memory, but I have my iPhone is just filled with notes.
Yeah,
Like I have like a
yeah.
to-do list, and I figure out exactly how I have to do things. And my girlfriend's like, you need to get an assistant soon. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna hire you as my assistant.
Yeah, exactly. What are we talking about? I already got one. Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely a lot to keep track of right now. But eventually, when I get to the next level, I'm hoping I have some sort of assistant.
For sure.
So.
And so, if you could have had a different shop that maybe could have prepared you a little bit more for what you're doing, is there a shop that even exists that could have helped you?
I think I've done everything. I wouldn't go back and change anything.
Okay.
Just because I think I've done, everything happens for a reason, I guess.
Sure, sure.
So I think I've went through my life and I've had influence with people, and a lot of people I've talked to have helped me in different situations. So I think everything I've done to this point, I wouldn't really change anything.
Okay.
But one thing that I would do differently is I would be buying properties a lot sooner. So
A lot sooner. You're 26. A lot sooner. When would you want to get started?
So if what happened was I bought my single family and then I stopped. I had like almost like a FOMO moment where I was like, everything's gonna hit the ground. I'm gonna be buying houses for pennies on the dollar, right? There's gonna be some sort of bubble. It's gonna burst. These prices are way too high, and that was back then, right? Where I bought my single family for 177.
Oh, wow.
And 2 families were going for like 250 at the time.
And what year is this?
This was in it was like a little bit before, right around COVID. So I said 2020.
Yeah,
roughly,
okay.
2019, 2020.
Yeah.
So I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, there's gonna be another 2008, price is gonna go down, this and that. I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. I waited 3 or 4 years out of the market.
Wow.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
bought a single family, I waited.
Yeah.
I'm over here thinking like, price is gonna drop. No, they just kept going up.
Just kept going up, yeah.
So if I would have kept buying back then, I would have had a large portfolio. I could have borrowed against it, bought more now, and then waited now, But it is what it is. You learn as you go. So.
What do you feel like is the biggest lesson that school taught you so far?
Real estate, or
Maybe in real estate, or if there's one thing that you do thank school for, one lesson or value or study habit maybe, like.
I would say just working as a team. So that college I went to, I had a cohort of 18 kids. Out of those 18 kids, only 12 or 13 of us made it to the finish line, just for various reasons. They failed out, they failed drug tests, things like that. I was in a very strict college environment where essentially we were getting paid to be there. So I got like a scholarship where it was very, very strict.
Sure.
And I learned to work in a team and talk to people and figure things out as a team. So that's one thing that I definitely thank school for, is working together as a cohort. So that's probably one thing I've learned.
So that's interesting, because in a lot of ways you work as an individual and solo, but as you said, you do look for mentors and people. Maybe even if you're not as a team, you're still trying to work with them to learn from them.
Yeah, so everything I do is with a team. Maybe I might be the face of it,
Okay.
but with that being said, I wouldn't be able to fix up houses without anybody else. And I know
Sure.
that, right? So
Okay,
it's
interesting.
all about building relationships
Yeah.
and being friendly with people, let me give you an example. Just now, right, I had a situation where I have a crew working on a property, and the electrician pulls up. He's like, hey, I can't do my work. There's a bunch of sheetrock here in the way, this and that. The crew that's there on site wasn't responsible for the sheetrock being put the way it was.
Yeah.
So I asked the crew to move it for me, right, in a respectful way.
Yeah.
And then I also rewarded them for listening to me, and I bought them lunch, right?
Yeah, great.
I
Okay.
went out of my way to kind of do that just because they went out of their way to help me out,
Yeah.
right? So that's one thing I've learned is I'm not going to just go there and start rushing and commanding people to do this and do that. So it's kind of like a game you got to play, right? You got to work as a
Sure.
team.
Yeah.
So if I went there and I started yelling at people, they would probably not do what I wanted to do, or maybe I would have gotten the same result, but as soon as I left that room, they'd be talking about me
Yeah,
and not good things.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So instead now they're like, wow, you know, Josiah took care of me, he bought my lunch, he didn't have to do that. So that's like stuff that I've learned as I go is you kind of got to treat people the way you'd want to be treated.
Absolutely. And that team building in relationships, that I guess, what was the first major relationship that you remember where you're like, oh, it's actually really important how you treat people? Was there like an epiphany, or was that just kind of gradual over time?
I would say two things. So
Sure.
when I was younger, I used to play baseball, and I had a coach. His name was Coach Hector.
Okay.
And he taught us, you know, say somebody made a mistake, that person was going to run a lap, but you're going to run as a team.
Okay,
So
sure.
not just one person. So all of us would be running as
Yeah.
a team around the field, and we'd have to run at the pace of the slowest person.
Oh, wow.
So if we had somebody who was out of shape and they were taking forever, if we just tried bolting right through it,
Yeah.
we'd have to rerun the lap again as a team.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it was almost like instead of doing triple the work, let's all together go as a team. So
Yeah.
that was like at a young age, I learned that
Interesting.
lesson.
Okay.
And the second one I would say is I used to work at Domino's, and I had the owner of that franchise was very involved. He was always there. He was always
Okay.
on site, and I learned a lot from him. His name was Nelson.
Oh,
So-
yeah. He's pretty famous around here.
You know Nelson Lockhart's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So he's a great person. He recently retired, but previous to him retiring, he owned 3 of the local Domino's.
Exactly, yeah.
And he taught me that same lesson that essentially if you want success in your business, you have to be involved. You have to be a people person. And he's helped a lot of people. People that work for him and people that don't work for him. And I always viewed that, and I became part of his team. I worked my way up, all the way up to management, and I was supposed to buy a franchise.
Okay.
And it didn't end up working out just because that's a lot of work, and I don't really want to be involved with something like that.
Sure.
That much day to day, but you know, I learned a lot from that lesson. So.
And that's a perfect segue to you're just talking about different jobs that you've had, like working at Domino's, but when did you realize that you'd rather not work for someone and rather work for yourself?
I've always, like I said, I've always not liked working for other people. So even when I worked at Domino's, I became a manager right away because I was kind of in charge. The only person that wasn't above me was the owner. Right? So
Okay.
I called the shots the entire shift or whatever. So I've always kind of been the person that I don't like to be told what to do. Right?
Really?
So I kind of worked my way up in that fashion. But when I segued into other jobs, I realized quite quickly that what I wanted to do had to be related to entrepreneurial things. So I knew right away that I wanted to own my own business or do something like that.
Sure.
So.
And the dream always was real estate? You just had to figure out how to get there?
Yeah, I've always been interested in real estate, but I thought at first, like everybody thinks, you need to have money, you need to do this, you don't need money to start real estate. You can find a great deal and team up with anybody. As long as you have the deal you control, you have all the power, basically.
Okay, so explain the deal. Like, what do you mean by that?
So, for example, I had a buddy of mine call me the other day, and he goes, hey, Josiah, I have this amount of money. Why don't I just give it to you, you invest it, right? And I pretty much told him, I said, hey, thanks for the offer and the vote of confidence, but I don't need your money, right? And a lot of people would say the opposite, like, oh yeah, come on, let's go.
Sure.
But I don't need the money. I told him if he finds me a deal, I'll partner up with him, right? Because there's a lot of people, you can find partners anywhere that will be willing to give you, thousands of dollars and partner up with you. That's not the hard part. The hard part is finding the deal. And what I mean by that is analyzing something that makes sense. So you don't want to devote your time buy something, fix it, and try and flip it, and it doesn't sell.
Sure.
Or it doesn't make a profit at the end of all of it said and done. So you need a couple different things. Money is the last on the list.
Sure.
You need experience, you need the deal that makes sense, and obviously you need the workforce behind you.
Sure.
I would even add track record to that, some sort of proven track record to kind of make things work.
Sure.
But money is definitely the least of it, because if you find the deal, you can have banks lend you almost all the money, and then you find a partner that will lend you the 10% or 20% that you need to buy the property. So.
And so where are you finding these people who are just willing to give you money? Like,
it's weird. So as you progress through life, you start to just have people come to you and present you different opportunities.
Sure.
Like when I was obviously in middle school or high school, someone would say, hey, I have 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, whatever. And I'd be like, whoa, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But as you kind of get older, you start to get desensitized to that amount of money, and you're like, oh, 100,000, okay. But like, where's my millions? The millions is a lot. You know? So then maybe when I get to that point, I'm gonna say millions, where's the 100 million?
Exactly.
A billion, right? You kind of just constantly, you grow more hungry, basically. So.
Okay, I'm glad you bring that up. Okay, because I mean, I'm like you, I don't really have that much money, but I also don't have maybe as big a goal as you do. But do you have a financial goal? Like, what are you striving toward right now?
Not to get too personal, but I want to get, my first goal is 100 doors. So once I get to 100 doors, then I'll get to where I want to be, where I'll feel comfortable and I can kind of relax for a little bit.
Okay.
And then after that, I want to go from 100 doors and just get a bigger portfolio. So I want to get, right now I'm going to be doing small things like 3s, 4s, 6s, 8s, and kind of work my way up. Once I get to 100 units, I'm going to segue into 20 units in one property, 15, 30, whatever, stuff like that. That's what I want to be doing, is bigger properties.
Sure.
So my first goal is 100 units. So we'll see.
And that's a much more, I mean, I guess $1 million is also a tangible goal, but that'll come at some point. Yeah, definitely down the line.
Yeah. As far as money goes, I have a certain amount, threshold-wise, that I want to make per year.
Yeah.
But that's not really what I'm necessarily focused on right now. Right now, I'm focused on acquiring as many assets as possible.
Yeah.
And then after that, I can essentially grow by borrowing against those assets and buying more. So that's the end goal, essentially. I have a lot of people who I rely on that are my mentors, and they're at 200 units, 300 units, things like that. And I'm like, how do I get there?
Yeah, sure.
And
so that essentially wraps up part one. I really want to talk to you more about, in part two, your business, loans. Like, if you could just explain it to people in simple terms that can make sense, and maybe some financial advice as well. Because it seems like ever since you were young, you were pretty good with money, making money, how to invest it. And so when I talk to a lot of people, they ask about like things that school should be teaching. People always bring up financial literacy. Maybe you can define a little bit what that means and how you've been able to learn it so far.
Yeah, so I've been working with...
So we'll talk about that in part two.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah. So everyone, this has been Josiah Cordero, and this has been part one, where he's been explaining a little bit about his life, how he got to this point, his interest in real estate, and we've been talking about hustling. Yeah. And so watch us in part two, where he explains a little bit more in detail about what he's doing right now and maybe some plans for the future. Thanks so much for watching. Catch us in part two. Peace.